Memory is one of the most fascinating abilities of the human brain. It allows us to recall faces, relive joyful moments, and store knowledge that shapes who we are. But as we age, or even when we're simply overwhelmed with busy schedules, many of us notice slips in memory. We forget where we left the keys, blank on a name, or struggle to remember something we just read. People often turn to puzzles, diets, or expensive supplements in the hope of sharpening memory. But what if one of the simplest tools for improving memory was not in a pill or a brain training app, but in your own hands? Literally? Yes, you read that right. Researchers and brain experts have been exploring the surprising connection between hand exercises and memory improvement. At first, it sounds odd, even unbelievable. How could moving your fingers or squeezing your palm affect the way your brain recalls information? But science offers some intriguing explanations, and once you understand them, you may never look at your hands the same way again. Why does this matter? Because memory loss is one of the top concerns people have about aging and brain health. For seniors, staying independent often depends on remembering important tasks, appointments, or safety routines. For students, strong memory is the foundation of learning. For working adults, memory supports productivity and creativity. If there's a simple, low-cost exercise that can boost memory, even a little, it's worth exploring. And hand exercises are accessible to everyone. You don't need special equipment, just your own body and a few minutes of practice. Let's take a closer look at why this idea isn't as far-fetched as it sounds. The hands are not just tools for grasping objects. They're incredibly sensitive, with a large number of nerve endings. In fact, the brain devotes a surprisingly large portion of its sensory and motor cortex to controlling the hands and fingers. This means that when you move or stimulate your hands, you're also activating areas of the brain that overlap with memory, attention, and learning. Think of it this way. The brain is like a giant network of roads and highways. Some roads are wider and busier than others. The roads connected to the hands are particularly large and active, constantly sending signals back and forth. When you perform a hand exercise, you're not just moving muscles. You're lighting up whole sections of your brain. This extra activity may help prime the brain for tasks like memory recall. Relatable examples show this in daily life. Have you ever noticed that many people doodle or tap their fingers while trying to remember something? Or think about how some students play with stress balls during study sessions. These little habits may not be random. They may be ways the brain uses hand movement to aid concentration and memory. Even musicians, who use their fingers in complex ways, often show stronger memory in certain cognitive tasks compared to non-musicians. One particularly interesting finding comes from research on hand clenching exercises. Scientists discovered that clenching the right hand for about 90 seconds before trying to memorize information and then clenching the left hand before recalling it can sometimes improve memory performance. The explanation lies in brain hemispheres. The right hand is connected to the left hemisphere, which is often active in encoding information, and the left hand is connected to the right hemisphere, often linked to retrieval. By engaging the hands, you may be activating these hemispheres in a helpful way. This doesn't mean clenching your fists is a magic cure for forgetfulness, but it shows that hand exercises may have a genuine effect on brain function. And even if the impact is small, combining it with other healthy habits like good sleep, proper diet, and mental stimulation can make a meaningful difference over time. Of course, the idea of a weird hand exercise also makes it fun and approachable. Instead of feeling like brain health is a chore or a medical battle, it becomes something curious and even playful. Seniors might try it as part of a morning routine, students might experiment before exams, and busy adults might use it as a quick reset during stressful days. In all these cases, the key isn't perfection but practice. Repeating small actions that encourage the brain to stay flexible and strong. So, as strange as it sounds, your hands may hold more power than you think when it comes to memory. They are not just physical tools, but gateways to the brain. Now that we've laid the foundation for why hand movement is connected to the brain, it's time to explore the first key solution: specific hand exercises that may boost memory. The idea of squeezing your fists or wiggling your fingers to improve recall might sound unusual, but the brain thrives on unusual stimulation. The very fact that these exercises feel weird can make them effective, because they activate areas of the brain that are often underused in daily life. One of the most widely discussed exercises is the hand clench technique. Researchers have found that clenching the right hand for about 90 seconds before trying to learn or memorize information may activate the left hemisphere of the brain, which plays a role in encoding memories. Later, clenching the left hand for 90 seconds before trying to recall that information may activate the right hemisphere, which is more involved in retrieval. It's as if you're flipping switches to prepare the brain for different stages of memory. Imagine a student preparing for an exam. Before reviewing vocabulary words, they clench their right hand tightly for 1.5 minutes. The action seems simple, but what it's doing internally is priming the left hemisphere. When test day comes and the student tries to recall the words, they clench the left hand. This primes the right hemisphere, making retrieval smoother. While this exercise doesn't guarantee perfect recall, it can give the brain a small but meaningful boost. Another helpful exercise is finger tapping sequences. This involves tapping your fingers against your thumb in a specific pattern. For example, index, middle, ring, pinky, then back again. You can do it with both hands or just one. This kind of pattern requires concentration and coordination, which engages both motor control and attention centers in the brain. Over time, it may strengthen the brain's ability to hold and recall sequences of information, like phone numbers or lists. Think of it as mental gymnastics disguised as a simple physical movement. A senior might sit in a chair and practice tapping patterns each morning, using it as both a brain warm-up and a way to keep their hands flexible. A student might try it during study breaks as a way to reset focus. It's quick, portable, and free, yet it stimulates brain pathways that link movement with memory. A third exercise is bilateral hand movement, which means using both hands in coordinated or mirrored patterns. For example, draw circles in the air with both hands at the same time, or squeeze a stress ball in each hand alternately. These cross-body or alternating actions are powerful because they engage both hemispheres of the brain at once. The brain loves novelty and coordination. When it's challenged in new ways, it responds by strengthening connections. These exercises may seem too simple to matter, but their value lies in consistency. Just like lifting small weights regularly can build strength over time, small brain-activating movements build cognitive resilience. The benefits might include sharper focus, faster recall, and even reduced mental fatigue. More importantly, they remind us that the body and brain are not separate. They are constantly working together. Encouragement is important here. If you try these exercises once and don't notice a difference, don't give up. The brain changes gradually. Think of these hand exercises as seeds. Each time you practice, you're planting a seed that may grow into better memory performance later. Combined with other habits like good sleep, balanced nutrition, and mental stimulation, they become part of a holistic approach to brain health. Let's imagine some everyday scenarios. Paul, a retired engineer, starts practicing hand clenching before doing his crossword puzzles. He doesn't notice much at first, but after a few weeks, he finds he's recalling words more quickly. Emily, a high school student, uses finger tapping during study breaks. She finds it keeps her mind alert and reduces the urge to scroll endlessly on her phone. Even John, a busy office worker, squeezes a stress ball in alternating hands during lunch breaks, using it as a mini brain exercise. Each of them benefits in small but real ways. What makes these exercises special is that they are accessible to everyone. You don't need expensive equipment, memberships, or long hours of practice. You can do them at your desk, while watching TV, or even in bed before sleeping. The low barrier to entry makes them powerful tools, especially for seniors who want to keep their minds sharp, but may not have access to structured brain training programs. As we move forward, we can see how the hands truly act as gateways to brain health. The first key solution, specific hand exercises like clenching, tapping, and bilateral movements, shows us that small actions can create big opportunities. The next question is, how do these exercises fit into daily life, and what benefits can we expect when practiced regularly? Now that we've explored some of the specific hand exercises that can stimulate the brain, the next step is to understand how to bring them into daily life. Knowing about an exercise is one thing, but making it a habit is what transforms potential into real results. The beauty of these weird hand exercises is that they are easy, quick, and adaptable, making them a natural fit for busy schedules, study routines, or even quiet moments of rest. Let's start with the idea of morning activation. Just as many people stretch their legs when they wake up, you can also stretch your brain through your hands. A simple routine might involve clenching your right fist tightly for about 90 seconds, then releasing and shaking it out. This can be paired with deep breathing, which further enhances circulation and oxygen flow to the brain. Then, later in the day, before a task that requires recall, you could clench your left hand for the same duration. Over time, this pairing of hand movement and mental activity can become a ritual that signals the brain to prepare for learning and remembering. For students, integrating these exercises during study sessions can be especially powerful. Imagine sitting at a desk, preparing to memorize key dates for a history exam. Before diving in, you clench your right hand to prime the encoding process. During breaks, you practice finger tapping sequences, stimulating coordination and attention. Then, on test day, you clench your left hand before starting. This pattern not only helps with recall, but also provides a sense of control. Students feel they have an extra tool to steady their nerves and sharpen their focus. Adults in the workforce can also benefit. Many office jobs involve long hours of mental focus, often followed by fatigue. A quick bilateral exercise, like squeezing a stress ball alternately in each hand, can serve as a mini reset. It activates both hemispheres of the brain, wakes up the nervous system, and provides a short break from the monotony of screens. Over time, these small resets can help reduce mental fog and maintain sharper memory for tasks that matter. For seniors, daily integration is about both memory and independence. Seniors often fear memory decline because it threatens their ability to live on their own. A morning routine of hand-tapping sequences, combined with cognitive activities like reading or puzzles, provides a low-effort way to keep the brain engaged. The physical movement also helps with circulation and dexterity, which are valuable for overall mobility. A senior might not be preparing for exams, but they may want to remember grocery lists, family birthdays, or steps in cooking recipes. Hand exercises become part of a holistic approach to keeping the mind active and the spirit confident. Here's a simple story to illustrate. Margaret, a grandmother in her 70s, begins practicing hand clenching before doing her daily crossword puzzle. At first, she feels silly, wondering how squeezing her fist could matter. But after several weeks, she notices she's recalling words and clues more quickly. The ritual becomes part of her routine, and she looks forward to it. The exercise doesn't just strengthen her memory, it strengthens her confidence that she can still keep her mind sharp. Meanwhile, Ben, a college student, struggles with focus while preparing for exams. He adopts a routine: right hand clench before study, finger tapping during breaks, and left hand clench on exam day. It becomes part of his strategy, and even if the effect is partly psychological, it works. His confidence rises, his focus improves, and his exam performance reflects the difference. In both stories, the exercises aren't isolated tricks. They're woven into routines that create consistency. That's the key: repetition. The brain learns and strengthens through repetition. Just as physical exercise builds muscle, repeated mental activation through hand exercises builds cognitive resilience. Another way to integrate hand exercises is during transition moments in the day. those times when the brain shifts gears. Before a meeting, while waiting in line, or even while commuting, a few finger taps or hand clenches can serve as brain warm-ups. These little micro habits prevent wasted time and make ordinary moments productive for brain health. It's also worth noting that consistency is more important than intensity. You don't need to clench your fists until they hurt or practice for hours each day. Just a few minutes, done regularly, can have more impact than sporadic, intense efforts. The goal is not to strain, but to stimulate. The benefit of integrating these exercises into daily life goes beyond memory. They also serve as mindfulness anchors. When you focus on the physical sensation of your hands moving, you pull your attention away from distractions and worries. This mindfulness effect reduces stress, which in itself improves memory performance. Stress hormones like cortisol can interfere with memory, so anything that calms the mind indirectly strengthens recall. By making hand exercises part of ordinary routines, morning rituals, study sessions, work breaks, or senior activities, we create a bridge between theory and practice. It transforms the weird hand exercise from a curiosity into a lifestyle tool. We've explored the science behind hand exercises and memory, and we've seen how they can be woven into daily life for students, working adults, and seniors alike. The final step is to put it all together into a framework that's practical, encouraging, and inspiring. Memory is not just about recall, it's about confidence, independence, and quality of life. When we use small tools like hand exercises wisely, we remind ourselves that brain health is within our reach. The third key solution is about building a balanced routine that treats memory as a living skill rather than a fixed ability. Too often, people think of memory decline as inevitable, something that happens with age and cannot be helped. But science shows that while memory does change as we age, it can be strengthened through consistent practice. Just like muscles, the brain responds to exercise, and the hands provide a simple, accessible way to deliver that exercise. So how can this become a practical lifestyle? The first tip is start small and stay consistent. You don't need to spend hours clenching fists or tapping fingers. Begin with just a few minutes each day. Maybe clench your right hand before learning something new, and your left before reviewing or recalling it. Try finger tapping sequences for a couple of minutes during work breaks. Over weeks and months, the consistency creates stronger neural pathways. The second tip is pair the exercises with meaningful tasks. If you're studying, clench your hand before memorizing. If you're cooking and want to remember the recipe, use bilateral hand squeezes as a warm-up. If you're about to tell a story or give a presentation, try a quick tapping exercise. Pairing the action with a purpose helps your brain make the connection more powerfully. The third tip is add variety. The brain loves novelty, so don't limit yourself to one exercise. Alternate between clenching, tapping, and bilateral movements. This keeps the brain alert and engaged, preventing the routine from becoming mechanical. Variety also ensures that different parts of the brain are stimulated, giving a broader benefit to memory and attention. The fourth tip is make it fun. Too often, health practices are framed as chores, which makes them hard to sustain. Instead, approach these exercises with curiosity and playfulness. Laugh at yourself when you forget the tapping pattern. Challenge friends or grandchildren to copy your finger sequences. Enjoy the sense of doing something unusual and creative. The positive emotions you bring to the exercise actually enhance learning and memory even more. Beyond the exercises themselves, the bigger message is that small habits add up. Hand exercises may not transform memory overnight, but combined with other brain-healthy practices, good sleep, balanced diet, staying socially active, they become part of a lifestyle that protects the mind. For seniors, this can mean holding on to independence longer. For adults, it can mean staying sharp in the workplace. For students, it can mean recalling information more effectively during exams. Let's bring this home with some stories. Grace, a retired teacher, begins every morning with a short routine: right hand clench while reviewing her to-do list, then left hand clench before recalling it later in the day. The ritual gives her a sense of control, and she finds she remembers her errands more clearly. Ethan, a college student, adopts bilateral tapping during study breaks. He's surprised at how it refreshes his concentration and reduces anxiety. Over time, it becomes his secret exam strategy. And David, a middle-aged professional, practices stress ball squeezes while reading reports at work. He feels sharper, less mentally drained, and more confident in meetings. Each of these examples shows how something simple can ripple outward into bigger areas of life. What begins as a weird hand exercise becomes a symbol of empowerment. It's not just about memory, it's about knowing we can shape our own health, even with small steps. And that is the heart of this conclusion. Memory is not out of our control. It is influenced by what we do, how we live, and the habits we build. The myth that decline is unavoidable leads to fear, but the truth is more hopeful. Every hand squeeze, every tapping sequence, every bilateral movement is a reminder that our brains remain adaptable, even in later years. So the next time you forget where you put your glasses or struggle to recall a name, don't despair. Take it as an opportunity. Try the weird hand exercise, not as a miracle cure, but as a sign of action, a signal to your brain that you are still training, still growing, still independent. Your hands are more than tools for daily tasks. They are keys to keeping your memory alive and your confidence strong. In the end, the lesson is simple. We don't need expensive gadgets or complicated programs to support memory. Sometimes the most powerful solutions are the ones already at our fingertips, literally. The weird hand exercise may look small, but its impact goes far beyond memory. It represents resilience, creativity, and the determination to keep living with strength and independence. And that is a truth worth holding on to, one squeeze at a time.